I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and this is the Readathon. And I'm here with my podcast partner on the Readathon, Mel Barrett. Mel, do you want to remind people who you are and what you do?
Hey, Rebecca. My name is Mel Barrett. I'm an investigative true crime podcast host, and my podcast is called The In-Between, and you can listen to it wherever you listen to podcasts.
And we have a very special guest that we've been really excited to talk about. I know, Mel, you've been looking forward to meeting him. Do you want to introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
My name is Aiden Carney. I'm an investigative journalist of sorts. I have a YouTube show. I guess I'm like an entertainer, an activist, and a journalist, kind of all rolled into one. And I've built this platform called Turtleboy, and the Karen Read case has been a story that I've been covering for the last 2.5 years.
So I have a question for you. This week you put out a 12-minute video that I'm going to link in the show notes here that I think everybody should watch, because I know you did it for a specific reason, but I think it actually says a lot more than just that specific reason. Why did you feel like you had to make this video about Karen Read's team and your relationship and all the other things that were in it?
Well, there was just a lot of misconceptions. So, like on my show the other night, everybody asks me, when are you getting Karen or her team on, right? Anybody? They want to have me watch me interview these people. They've seen Bob Alessi and David Yannetti go on. They're doing all the tours. They're going on all the YouTube channels. And they've, kind of asked, a lot of people are asking, when are you going to get them on? When are you going to get them on? And I don't know the answer to that question. So I'm pretty straightforward with my listeners. I could tell them how it is, no matter what, even if it's like an uncomfortable truth. And I just said, they're not really getting back to me, so I don't know the answer to that one. And so this caused a lot of online whatever from both sides, really. Like the anti people loved it because they're like, nice Discord, or they're ashamed of him. This is awesome. We love this. Whereas the pro Karen Read people were I saw it was almost nastier from the pro Karen Read people, because they were saying things like, oh, good, you're bad for them. Like they shouldn't associate with you. You use foul language. You use the C word, the R word, and they're smart to distance themselves from you, and blah 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 blah. And that honestly pissed me off more than anything. And so I wanted to make a video explaining that the reason, because I've talked to Karen Read, and the reason that she is not coming on my show first, and hasn't done anything yet, is financial, right? And so it's not personal or legal or anything like that. It's just about money. And I also want to make it clear that that's okay too. It's okay to make money in America, especially if you're in her position and you've been robbed essentially by the state for the last few years. You have a right to try to recoup your losses. And so basically, if she came on my show first, it's the exclusive. It's the first one that's really worth the most. And so she has all these people, I'm sure, that are bidding for her who have significantly deeper pockets than me. And, so I can't compete with that, and I get it. But after that, then she can do whatever she wants. Whereas if she came on my show first, she would be costing herself a lot of money. And quite frankly, that would be stupid of her to do that. I mean, for what? For a sense of loyalty? That would be really, really stupid. So I just wanted to make people know that I'm not taking it personally, right? They're doing what's in their best financial interest. I'll be okay no matter what. And so will she.
Well, it's not like she's not going to ever speak to you. She's just weighing out her options. Yeah. I mean, I really appreciated the sentiment behind your message. And I also I loved that you talked about what it feels like to go to jail. And how that disrupts your life and how that disrupts your family. And the idea that, everyone sees Karen as this sort of figurehead, but they're not thinking about her as a human being, even the people who are supporting her. They wanted her to get off of these charges, but they're not thinking about the fact that she's gone through the psychology of what she's gone through for the past 3.5 years is heavy, and everyone needs to give her some space, and everyone needs to, just let her be for a little bit. And so I appreciated you tying in your own personal experiences with that. I have personal experiences with it. They come from a different perspective. And I've had a fear of the cops for most of my life because I come from the LGBTQ community. So the idea that you were saying the same things that I feel was supremely important to me, and I hope it was really important to your audience as well.
Well, thanks. I mean, it was a personal thing that only somebody who's been incarcerated could understand. Like I was trying to explain to people that like actually when you get out, it's kind of worse sometimes. Like you know, like actually when you like when she was facing all these charges, you know, she's worried and everything, but like she had a goal every day. She had something to do. Like she had something to focus on, like fighting to save her life every day. Whereas like now that it's over and like it finally hits, like you think you're going to be all happy and everything, but it's like, wow, you've been through so much and you haven't had time to process it. And it messes with you like bad. Like the nightmares don't go away. You know, the bad dreams don't go away. Like the fear doesn't go away. And, you know, she'll be living with that for a while. So I thought that was important to point out.
Yeah, I appreciated it.
I have a question. I was talking to my son last night and telling him, you know, because he's like seeing me on court TV and he's like, he reads your stuff now and he's heard you on Howie Carr a bunch. And he asked me just like very plainly, like, what is in it for these anti-Karen Read people? Like, why are they doing it? It can't just be like outrage for clicks. And I just said to him, I think a huge part of it is actually driven by AntiTurtleboy sentiment.
Yes. Oh,
so
yes.
can you talk about that? Like, do you think that this began with that and then just ballooned into all these like sock puppet accounts? I mean, because granted, it's not that many people. Let's be real. Yeah,
it's a distinct minority. And I think that's how it started was anti-Turtleboy stuff. Like when I was first doing this for the first, I don't know, 6 or 7 months of, you know, advocating for Karen Read, there was no pushback, even online or anything. Like the McAlberts were invisible. They didn't do anything online. And then this woman, Kate Peter, who goes by Mafia Masshole on there. I have a long history with her. She used to work for me. I found she was stealing money. I got rid of her. And she has been on this warpath with me ever since. Like her life goal when she wakes up every day is to like destroy me somehow. And she's been trying this for years. Like before the Karen Read story broke, she had her 16-year-old daughter contact me and try to get, you know, and said some heinous stuff about my like 7-year-old daughter, like sexual stuff, like horrible things, and to try to provoke me. And I didn't respond the way that she wanted to, like negatively. And anyway, she brought the girl to court and had her try to get an order on me, and just to try to just like using her kid to try to get at me. Like that's how obsessed
weaponizing the criminal legal system against you.
It backfired. Luckily, the judge my lawyer made her daughter read all the messages that she sent me out loud in court, and the judge was just like, and he said at the end, he goes, "This one's not even close. If anything, the plaintiff is the aggressor here, so this one's denied." So anyway, so she's just been doing this for years, and when I first started writing about Karen Read, she just had to become a part of it because whatever I do, she's going to do the opposite. If I said Karen Read was guilty, she'd be leading the Free Karen Read movement. And so that's how it kind of started, with just a bunch of online trolls who hate me. Like Kimberly Fair is another one on Twitter. I think she goes by like Andy Do Friends. She is like a radical liberal who I wrote about years ago because she like went crazy. She started burning Trump shit in her house, like just one of those displays. That was the typical type of stuff I used to write about, right? And it's just funny because they have all put their politics aside, like, and she's joined people like Mike Gaffney, who is like a MAGA guy, right? And they all just like, who cares about that? Like, we all hate our politics is anti-Turtleboy, like that is to us most. And so they're all just mentally ill. But I think as it's grown and got bigger, it's also attracted like people who didn't know who I was prior to this, who are just, it's a lot of like true crime freak women people online, like Lee Carpenter person. Like this genre attracts a lot of crazy people.
Oh, it does.
Like, yeah.
Like, you know, I don't know if you know this, but what I do is like my day job is at NHPR, but what I do in my podcasting job is we actually talk about true crime media. Like my podcast is about true crime media, and I know it's like a wild landscape of people.
Just so you know, I have been covering the Pam Smart case for the past 10 years, and that's what my first season of my podcast was about. So I understand the crazies.
So another question for you is, you were in court. I know you saw a lot of things we didn't see, which I'd love to hear about, but you were invoked in court, and it turns out the jury didn't even know what Hank Brennan was talking about. But what was it like hearing like him question Lucky Loughran about you?
It was funny. I mean, it was awkward, but also funny. Yeah. Like, I'm like, this guy can't be serious. It was funny. On my way into work, court that day, I knew Lucky Lochran was testifying that day, and Meredith texted me and said something to the extent of, it would be crazy if he accused you of witness intimidation in the cross. And I said, no chance whatsoever he does that, because he doesn't want to open the door to that. And, then we talk about what the Dr. Wolf went through and ARCA and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
He's not going to do that. And he made it the centerpiece of his cross-examination. Like, I couldn't believe he actually brought that up. Like, that was absurd. And it was like, that is something that Kate Peter and all these other trolls online have been accusing me of. Like, he literally takes his talking points from online trolls. I think it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And this idea that I threatened Lucky Lochran is so absurd and intimidated him that he denied it on the stand. He's like, what? I had a really nice conversation with Lucky when I spoke to him on the phone. The first time the genesis of that is like the first time that I reached out to him in June, I'd found out about this plow driver who saw something.
What year?
June of 2023.
Okay, so like
And
a year before the first trial.
Yeah.
Yes. And this is like a year after Karen's people had spoken to him. And I knew that Michael Proctor never interviewed this guy. So I'm like, well, that's crazy. And I'm like, but he's got this huge testimony, but not seeing a body. Like, that's huge. And seeing a Ford Edge, like I'd heard about this. And so I messaged him on Facebook, and he gave me this thing. Like, I don't want to talk to anyone anymore. Like, I'm not talking to anyone else. And, I was like, to me, it seemed at the time like Lucky was just another person who seemed intimidated by the McAlberts and didn't want to talk, as it was going to help participate. Like, that was the theme of Canton, is like all these people that are scared of the McAlberts and don't want to come forward and tell the truth about what happened. And so on my show that night, I did a rant that they've, clipped and posted. And I was like, Lucky, like, you should talk to me, man. I'm like, if I write about this, I know what you did. I know that you talked to the PI, and Brian Albert's going to find out either way. So you might as well talk to me. And so, like, they somehow push that as, like, a threat, that I'm threatening him. Threatening him to what? To tell his story? Like, I don't understand what the threat is. And it's
You didn't
just
say
so,
or else, right?
Or else,
You weren't like...
right. No. And it's just funny because, as it turns out, the reason Brian Lucky didn't want to talk to me at the time was his wife had died like a few weeks prior to that.
Yeah.
And so he was just like, he's going through a lot. And so I gave him a couple months, and then I reached out to him through his cousin Gina, who spoke to me. And he's like, he's willing to talk to you now. And so I'm like, okay. So I gave Lucky a call. We had a nice conversation. I interviewed him. It lasted like 10 minutes. He told me everything. He told me the exact same story that he had told the...
he's incapable of lying, I think,
He's incapable.
That guy.
But what
I
I
love
found
that
out
guy.
that nobody had reported at the time was he told me that the FBI came and talked to me last month. And I'm like, oh, the FBI, and they made him drive the route and everything. So I'm like, the FBI is interested in Lucky Lochran. That's wild. Like, that's a huge spin on this. So I write about it. And then 2 days later, Michael Proctor and Yuri Buchanan suddenly decide, let's go interview this guy. Not because of some interest in, like, finding out what he saw and taking him seriously and looking into that Ford Edge or anything like that. They wanted to talk to Lucky Lochran because he said the word that scares them the most, FBI. And so they're like, did they talk about us? What did they say anything about us? Like, what are they saying? They were scared shitless, as they should have been. And, I think that they had no intention. They were trying to discredit him, and they were trying to convince him that he was actually a victim of me. Like, Turtleboy made you say this stuff, right? Did he wiretap you? Did he record you? But, like, they say that in the interview. Like, it's just absolutely absurd. So the fact that Hank actually brought that up in the courtroom was just laughable. That's how weak his defense was.
By the way, that sound you're hearing is Mel's dog, who snores a lot.
Sorry.
while
I have a French bulldog.
we're not just farting. Like,
Can you hear it?
I can
Sounds
hear
like
it.
a
she's, like,
lawnmower.
far away
I thought
from
it was a lawnmower. I thought someone was mowing the lawn.
Sorry.
She's
No,
become a
it's
star of the Karen Reed
Her name's
podcast.
Ruby. People like her.
I had a dog.
We
I
keep her.
had a Frenchie for 3 days when I got out of jail. So, like, somebody in jail when messaged me and said that, like, I just had a litter of French bulldogs. Would you like one? And I said, yeah, sure. Because in jail, everything sounds like a good idea. Because you're like, yeah, I'm going to travel the world. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that one. It's going to be awesome. And yeah, I'll have a puppy. And that was a really poorly thought out idea.
Bad idea.
Because as it turns out, puppies are a lot of work. They're like
Yes.
more
They are.
work than children. And, you can't, they're not like cats. You can't just leave them there
Nope.
all day.
They're cute,
And
so you don't hate them. That's what
Right.
puppies are.
Right. And and I'm like, so I had the trial coming up. I was going to be going to dead them all out. So like after 3 days, I did the responsible thing. And I said, this is not the ideal home for Ryder, as we called her. And, she's doing great now, back with the,
She's hanging out with Chloe.
yeah, right. Yeah, she's a good
How
dog.
much, what was it like for you knowing like what was going to come up in court and then some of that stuff didn't come up? So you know stuff we don't know, right?
Yes. Like,
Okay.
Tell us.
Like stuff.
You better
like,
tell us.
You mean like stuff that hasn't come up to this day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of this stuff is impounded. That's the problem.
Right,
Like,
right.
In December, we got a stack of. So we found out that Michael Morrissey was using a burner email to have contact with judges, right? And so that's, by the way, it's Hank's clutching pearls over Signal, but the DA using a burner
Which I
email.
guarantee he's going to start fucking using.
Yeah.
Like now that he
Oh,
knows
yeah.
he's going to
For
be like, this is a
sure.
good
he's
idea.
He's definitely.
He
downloaded
tells
it.
on himself.
sure.
Like all of his stuff is telling on himself. He,
Yep.
he,
Yep.
he
He's just
complains about
projecting.
misconduct and he's doing misconduct.
Of course.
He's a gaslighter, like extraordinary. Anyway,
Of
go
course.
ahead.
So we got these as part of we demanded after that we want all of Morrissey's communications, and in December instead of giving us all his communications, they gave us a stack of screenshots of text messages from his victim witness advocate Steve Nelson communicating with Jennifer McCabe and Kerry Roberts primarily, and then we got a couple group texts on it, and you see like the bubbles on it from an iPhone, and you see MM on it, so that's Morrissey, BT, which is Brian Tully,
yeah.
YB, Yuri Buchanan,
Yuri.
and MP Michael Proctor, and so they're all on it. And you see their reaction to the Lucky Loughran blog that I published in August of 23, and then there's it's all impounded, so we can't talk about the specifics of these because for some reason they just impound everything. Like it's like, and what Michael Proctor says in these messages is worse than anything he said about Karen Reed. Okay, as
Really?
far like not as offensive. Like he doesn't talk about balloon knots.
He doesn't call you a
No, he doesn't do anything. Well, he's got his own. He's got his own word for me. Actually, he's got his
Yeah.
own name for me, as you'll see. But it's how he puts it in writing that how they are going to selectively abuse their power to crush their enemies. Like he basically does that in writing to all these other cops, and they just announce it in a month after he sends this text message. I'm arrested, and as we've seen, like this, when we wrote our motion to dismiss, it was the first thing we cited, and we have to redact it. It's all in black, so the public doesn't even know what he said. It's all secretive, and so that's going to be one of our next things. Like the messages between Steve Nelson, the victim witness advocate, and Kerry Roberts are out of control. The messages between him and Jennifer McCabe are wild, and you see just how manipulative Jennifer McCabe is when these text messages become unimpounded.
I have a follow up to that, and I've been thinking about this a lot as far as you're concerned. I know that you had the blog and that you were already doing independent journalism before Karen Reed, and that you were reporting on corruption. Are you planning to continue on with this story to try to let your audience know what actually happened? Are you thinking about trying to figure out who actually killed John? Are there other corruption cases that you're covering? Like, what's next for as far as Karen Reed is concerned, or corruption in that area?
Yeah, I mean, truth be told, we're never going to find out what happened to John O'Keefe
Right.
unless somebody snitches. Like, that's the only way, because the police aren't going to investigate it, and I don't have
Right.
the ability to go in that house and luminol it or tap their phones or anything like that. So I don't think we're ever going to find out. But I know John went in the house, so he didn't come out with the pulse. So that means
Right.
that something happened to him in there. And as far as I'm concerned, and I said this in some interviews immediately after court, I'm like, they're all guilty. They're all, if in any other case, that would be joint venturer. Like all these people were present inside a house where a murder occurred, and none of them are talking about it. And he was put out in the lawn. So like, they're all guilty in my eyes. I don't really care who delivered the fatal blow. I mean, shame on these people for not saying something. I get why they're doing it, because it's family, and family bonds are obviously very strong. but I don't understand, like why Sarah Levinson isn't, what is wrong with these people that they're just going to live with this? Like they're probably more relieved than anyone that Karen Reed was acquitted. How would you like to live with that on your conscience? Like they're probably feeling better. Like, okay, we didn't go to jail and we don't have to live with this telltale heart thing where a woman we know is innocent is also in jail. I mean, I don't know if they have any morals or ethics but if they do, that would have been tough to live with. So they probably feel better that Karen's not in jail. But as far as like what I'm going to do after this, I obviously have my own charges. I'm going to continue to document with this. And, I'm sure more and more stuff will come up. I'm going to be writing a book about this. We're doing a documentary and a movie. So I'll be doing all that. But I'll also, whatever I can, I'll look in, like the Spofford thing happened the other day. Like I used to love that story when it first came out because I knew that guy was involved. Like him being involved in that was the most obvious thing ever. Like, and it was just the path. You're like, okay, obviously Eric LaBarge is in love with him. Okay. And he's a thug who would do anything for Spofford.
Yep.
Including like, and then you hear about the guys, you see the video of the guy throwing the brick through the window, and you're like, that guy's probably a former crackhead. And like Eric Spofford with his business has unlimited access to people who are drug addicts.
Troubled
and
people.
Desperate. Yeah, exactly. Like it's just the most obvious thing ever. And so like that's an example of a story that like, I haven't had much time to look into. But I'd like to, pick up more stories like that, continue stories like that as this case kind of winds down a little.
Sandra Birchmore as well.
Yeah, I mean the Sandra Birchmore one is I don't know if there's gonna be much to cover. Like he's gonna play.
Federal.
It's fun.
Yeah, well he's gonna play. He's gonna try to avoid the death penalty. He's gonna plea, and he's gonna go to jail for the rest of his life. So there's really not much that's gonna happen. And like you said, it's federal, so it's not televised.
Right.
We haven't even seen Matthew Farwell since this happened. And I know some people are kind of holding out hope that like he's going to name names and say other people involved. I don't know if it's that complicated. I mean, Matthew Farwell is just a pedophile murderer who, after the fact, the police like instinctively wanted to cover for him. I think that's the bigger thing. Like, I don't understand how that isn't a bigger deal. How like
he hasn't been charged.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
That and like how is like John Fanning and Nicholas Garino and the people that did this investigation, right? They just said, oops, like, oh, wait, it was a murder the whole time.
30,000 text messages.
It's a bigger
30,000.
story.
He said it was a suicide. It wasn't. Like, a pathologist came in and is like, no, that's not what happened here at all. And it was their insistence for years that it was. And by doing so, they endangered the community because they allowed this man who was capable of murdering people, including young women, to just walk amongst us, which endangered the whole public. And they're just like, yeah, oops, mulligan. Like in any other line of work, like best case scenario for them, that was incompetence. Worst case, it's corruption. Okay. But if you have any other line of work, if you are that incompetent, it's like a pilot falling asleep while driving an airplane. It's like you're fired. You can't do this job anymore. You are just way too incompetent. We can't entrust you with investigating suspicious deaths anymore. You're fired. Yeah. But in the Massachusetts State Police, you get promoted or you get a pay raise. So it's scary. That's what's kind of like it's bittersweet. This whole thing is that like Yuri Buchanan and Brian Tully are still on the job. And they're still out there investigating.
So is Guarino. The idea that Guarino missed or says he missed 30,000 text messages and then after that was brought in to testify about phone data in the Karen Reed trial. I don't get it.
Well, he says they were deleted. He says they were deleted. And so he didn't somehow, like he doesn't have the ability as an expert to find deleted messages. Give me a break.
Do you think that the FBI is still investigating the corruption specifically related to Karen Reed, or do you think that what Hank Brennan said is true?
Your guess is as good as mine. I know that they did. I had a very disappointing phone call with Karen Reed in February when we had heard rumblings about the FBI investigation being done, and her and I were just kind of trying to rationalize it. Like, could this? No, it can't be. Like, we thought this was like a PR stunt from Hank Brennan. But as it turns out, she called me later that day, and it was just a very disappointing phone call. And she's like, yeah, I have bad news that, we talked with Adam Deitch, who is kind of like the second guy after Josh Levy in charge of that investigation. And they confirmed that it's not like an active investigation. Now, it never closes. Like, if somebody came forward tomorrow and was like, I know what happened to John O'Keefe, they're not going to be like, sorry, that one's closed. Like, nothing ever closes.
But it wasn't about John O'Keefe. I mean, the FBI was probably looking into, they have a public integrity unit. They have all this other stuff. Obviously, they're now under orders to, like, stop investigating cops and stop with civil rights cases. And this would have been a civil rights case. But it doesn't mean that they're not still looking, for instance, at somebody like Michael Morrissey, just because they're no longer actively looking at the John O'Keefe part of it.
Have you ever watched The Wire?
Sure.
Yeah, so in The Wire, like, a theme of that is, like, the police like open and shut cases. They don't like the John Does. They don't like a season 2, a cart full of girls ending up in a whodunit. That's a lot of work. They like easy stuff. Like, that's human nature, right? So, like, the feds like the Matthew Farwell case because it was easy. Like, it's like, okay, so medical examiner says it's a homicide. Here's all these text messages we got. Let's lock him up. You got him. Like, it didn't even take that much time probably to build a case against him and arrest him. Tanya Fernandez Anderson, they like that one. She's taking $7,000 bribes in the bathroom. Monica Cannon Grant, right? It's like you have your bank. You just go into your bank records and look at all this money coming in that you're grifting off of this, social justice. And so, but with Karen Reed or the John O'Keefe investigation, it's a lot of work. They don't like to do a lot of work. And it seems like the entirety of their investigation was just getting their text messages and hoping that somewhere in those text messages someone confessed to killing John O'Keefe. That appears to be all that they did, because they didn't even interview Nicholas Barros. Like, how do you not talk to... Like, that guy has the goods. That guy is like what he said in court about the taillight not
He's
looking
the
like
real
that.
deal. He's the real fucking deal.
That guy should be the centerpiece of the FBI investigation into the corruption here. Like, he's a police officer. He testified under oath that the taillight didn't look like that when he saw it. Like, what else do you need to know?
I mean, he also told, Lally before the first trial that it didn't look like that, which in my mind is a total Brady violation.
It is.
It
literally is.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's like the idea that Lally, I think of Lally and Hank Brennan as two very different people, and for some reason I thought that Lally had
you just thought he was a dopey bad
I thought he was a better guy. But when he didn't bring forth the evidence, or he didn't tell the defense that Barrows said it didn't match, and then he sat there while Hank Brennan held up John's hoodie and tried to say the cutting in the back was from road rash. When Lally sat there, I was like, who is this douchebag? What the fuck is he doing?
Right.
How is he sitting there? He's already gone through this for a full year, 2 years, and he's just sitting there. These guys have no moral compass whatsoever.
None.
And they're supposed to,
Right.
especially a prosecution.
That's
was just like
the guy doing the guy running the night shift at Auschwitz, sitting in the tower. It's like okay, so it's your job. Oh, they'll say it's your job to do this, and you like your job. Like, you don't have to do this.
You're a lawyer. You have choices.
Yeah, you don't have to go through with this. You could tell your boss, I'm not. Apparently, other ADAs in that office did, because that's why they went with Hank Brennan. Is because no one else wanted to do this, and Lally wasn't good enough, and so they brought in Hank Brennan, courtesy of the taxpayers. So. Yeah, I think anyone participating in this whole thing is a bad person. I'm not afraid to say it. I think that it's unethical for anyone to, like, I would just be like, no, I'm not participating in this. I don't believe in this. And so that includes Laura McLaughlin, that includes Adam Lally, and because this was bogus from the beginning, and they knew it. I mean, that's so
and
unethical.
they knew it, yeah.
And there are, in my opinion, without a doubt, more Brady violations. Video. Yeah. I mean, it's very... The FBI subpoenaed Google in the Eric Spofford case, right? Mm-hmm. So Google knows what time anything would have happened. I don't think the 227 search matters that much. I think actually what she searched is far more suspicious than whatever time it may have been. But they also never subpoenaed... I don't know if they ever subpoenaed Toyota for the Lexus stuff. I know somebody who, I'll just say, would know that would have been possible to know exactly where Karen Reed went that night, what time, whether or not her car hit something. And they either never did it, or they did it and then they didn't disclose it. Like, I think they've shown that they're capable of that. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, like, generally speaking, but I don't think this is a conspiracy. I just think it's a really clumsy public cover up.
Yeah, but like the Adam Lalleys of the world, they can't be that stupid. Like they have to be somewhat suspicious of Jennifer McCabe. They have to be. Like their story makes no sense. These are people that deal with liars all the time, right? They prosecute defendants, all of whom claim to be innocent, and you know they know when somebody is being dishonest with them. They have to know that these people are not entirely on the up and up, but yet they treat them like their word is gold. And I mean,
and
Jennifer
that they're victims.
That they're victims. Yeah, Jennifer McCabe lied to the FBI.
Yeah.
She
lied to everybody.
You know,
She lied to us on the live stream.
You spoke to her?
No. I mean, she lied to us as we were watching the trial. Like I was you're lying to me right now.
The jury knew she was lying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and the idea that they made you out to be the villain when you were doing the work that the investigators should have been doing. Like they chose you as this villain, and they turned Jen McCabe and Proctor and all these people into these victims of you putting out the truth, is the way that I see it. When you're putting out the information that Jen McCabe's car is parked at Michael Proctor's house, and the prosecution's not doing anything with that, and
they did something with it. They charged me. They charged me with conspiracy for that.
But I mean, as far as telling the truth, like, you know, but that's my point. Instead of telling the truth, instead of going the short route and telling the truth, they go this long route and they turn you into this villain, so that everybody has a person that they can hate, and then they're not paying attention to what the prosecution is doing or what the investigators are doing, and it's royally fucked up.
And it's funny that they kept referring to, in his closing, he kept referring to her as a soccer mom.
I know.
It's only something you would say about a white woman. That is code for white suburban women are incapable of murder. He would not call Monica Cannon Grant that. He wouldn't call somebody, you know, from the city that. Only a suburban white woman gets called a soccer mom, because you associate soccer mom with the minivan and driving the kids around and juice boxes and all that. And, you know, they're not capable of murder, but, you know, financial analysts from Fidelity certainly are, because that makes sense. And so it's just, when he kept calling her that, I'm like, that is, she and Colin Albert are two of the most privileged people. They're the face of privilege in America. Like the privilege that they've received to not be questioned, to not be treated as suspects, to automatically assume to be these innocent, great people, to have the powers of the state, the government, all line up behind you. I mean, that hostage video that Michael Morrissey did, he mentioned Colin Albert by name 4 times. Like, imagine the most powerful law enforcement official taken to the airwaves to defend you personally, and you're some 19-year-old, let's face it, punk, you know, who's not a likable person, who wasn't raised right, and all this stuff. And you have the most powerful person in the county going on and doing this broadcast where he's praising you, and you're a great kid. He's such a great kid. He's a victim in all this. That's what privilege looks like.
That kid is a thug. I mean, in social media, he's proudly a thug. That's not me characterizing him as anything other than what he characterizes himself as. I have a question about Jen McCabe, and I just think it's so interesting that the men involved in this case have like put the women out there to take all the heat, or the women have chosen to. I mean, it's just very strange, because Matt McCabe, relatively quiet. Brian Albert says nothing, except for on his stupid things that he said for 2020, which was wild. I want to ask you about that. But like the Jen McCabe of it, we've sort of developed this like shared theory that like she is the sports mom who brought the snack even when it wasn't her snack day, because she thought the person who was supposed to bring the snack wouldn't. Like, she just has to control and know, keep her enemies close. And like whatever the reason she inserted herself, the reason she pulled Carrie Roberts in, the reason she kept contacting the police is because she just is the person who needs to know and needs to control everything. And maybe the guys were like, shut the fuck up, but like, that's just who she is.
Yes, it is exactly who she is. You see it in the dash cam video, the way she's talking to every cop. You just look at her call log, and you're like, holy shit, she called Carrie Roberts that day like 50 times. She called Peggy O'Keefe, a woman she had never spoken to before, like a bunch of times. She was just getting it in her head the whole day, calling Lank back to the house at 9 a.m. to tell him that. Like, everything, it was diabolical, like her behavior. Once you see it, you're like, oh my God, this woman. No, and then you see her on the stand, the way she keeps looking at the jury, like, you guys believe me, right? Like,
Right.
you know, you guys believe I'm.
It was so
and she
awkward.
actually said, like, we're just like normal moms. Like she just
Yeah.
wants to put on this whole thing, like, oh, they won't believe a normal mom would do something like this. Not from the suburbs, not from Canton. No, normal
Not with
moms.
a $100,000 SUV. Why would I do
no,
that?
Yeah, I'm a
They
normal
misread
mom.
the jury in that case, though. I mean,
Yes, they
the
did.
jury was a little bit more diverse than I think they were expecting.
Well, they were also
and
super smart.
Super
Very
smart.
Very
you
smart.
know.
I'm so impressed by this jury. And
Me
I think
too.
we were all jaded by the first trial because my interview with Ronnie made my head want to explode. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, the jury system is fucked. Like we can't, oh my God, I can't believe they thought like this. And then, so we're all like kind of messed up from that. We were all worried in the second trial. But as it turns out, it was never a contest. Like she was never in danger at all. And they were just deliberating the DUI for a couple of days. It sounds like.
And it
Yeah.
sounds like, I mean, the judge, picks the foreman. That's her prerogative. I guess in Massachusetts, the judge has that discretion. But she picked somebody who actually knows what a juror is supposed to do. You're supposed to
Yeah.
presume innocence and then look for guilt in the evidence,
Yeah.
and the guilt wasn't there, which is fascinating. Have you been watching all the interviews that have been
Oh,
going
yeah.
on with jurors, with the
Oh, yeah.
with the McAlberts, all that stuff?
I've
What do
watched
you
all.
think?
This is I call him the based foreman. He's the most based guy ever. Like just watching him roll up in a court every day. I was wondering he wasn't taking notes at all. He's the only, but he sat there. Like the rest of them take notes. I think it helps you not fall asleep when you take notes too. But he just sat there the whole time, never like blinked or like seemed tired or anything. Didn't take any notes. And I'm like, what's going on in this guy's head? And that's why he wasn't one of my higher ranked jurors. I did like a juror ranking. He was kind of towards the bottom because I just couldn't get a read on him. But as Alan Jackson told me, he didn't take any notes because he made his mind up during the opening statement. That's why he didn't take any notes, because he was, as soon as he heard that, he was like done. He's like, can you guys tell me? And that's what he said in interviews since then. I was waiting for them to explain to me how she hit him by a car, and they never did it.
Yeah.
So that's not
It's
guilty.
fundamental.
It's fundamental. And he's kind of gone the next step since then to say that she's also innocent, and I think the FBI should reopen their investigation. Those are strong words. Those are very strong words from a juror. And I just, it's very, it's great to see it. And it's disgraceful, the things that have been said about these people afterwards. Like the two most vocal jurors have been the black foreman and the immigrant mother of four, right?
Yep.
And they have been relentlessly attacked in racial ways too, like John DePetro doing a whole, he
Oh, that
mocked
guy.
her accent.
That fucking
they
guy.
talked about ICE getting involved, all this stuff, and then you got Kate Peter had a tweet the other day of the foreman that was taken down, where she just said, "Tell him, hey Grok, what does an Uncle Tom look like?"
Oh
It
my
was like the
God.
most racist shit ever. And
Holy
she ended up, and she's like the voice of the Commonwealth. Like she works with them. This is who they've aligned themselves with, and it's like.
Yeah.
Like, oh, because a black foreman doesn't see this way you do, he's an Uncle Tom. First of all, that doesn't even make sense.
Doesn't
even make sense.
A little bit if the victim was black and Karen and she was white and she said not guilty, that would make sense a little bit.
Which, by the way, like, it's a stupid racist term that no one should ever
It's
use. Anyway,
so
obviously.
ridiculous.
But like, that's not something that you ever engaged in when the jury was deadlocked last
No.
time. And that's something that I really noted, is that you really looked at like what they saw in court versus, you weren't like, look at this fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Like that's not, I noted that.
Yeah, well, it's like that's what they wanted me to say. They wanted the clips of me attacking the jurors, because like there's all this thing about Turtleboy's going to go after the jurors and do this. I had the foreman's name since like the second day after the trial was over, and I never said it. I didn't put it out there. Plevin ended up putting it out there before anyone, and I didn't attack him or anything like that. Even though I have a lot of strong feelings about like the shenanigans he pulled in that deliberation room, according to Ronnie. I have a lot of strong feelings about Ronnie that I don't vocalize. Yeah. It's like, because I'm not interested. That's not productive. I wanted to know what happened in there so we can use that information to make her defense stronger in the second trial. And they did. They listened to this stuff. They listened to like what Ronnie said more than anything is that like the conspiracy thing, he kept calling it a distractor. I disagree, but fine. If that's the way an average human being looks at this, the goal is to acquit your client. So focus on she didn't do this. Explain to them what reasonable doubt is. They didn't do that as much in the first trial. They did in the second trial. The way I watched a bunch of Jose Baez closings. His closings in the Casey Anthony trial and the second Aaron Hernandez trial, both of which ended in acquittals. And his closings are so good. And it's just like he just has this chart of what reasonable doubt is. If you think it's likely she did it, she's not guilty. If you think it's probable she did it, it's not guilty. This is the highest, like, beyond a reasonable doubt, and he explained it all. And Alan did that in his closing. Like, he had his reasonable doubt big board, and they didn't show it on the screen, but it was so cool. Like, every time, it was like a sticky note that went up there every time. Reasonable doubt, reasonable doubt, reasonable doubt. And by the end of it, it was just such a masterful closing that, and he learned this from the Ronnie interview. He learned this from, the mistakes. So they're very responsive to what people say on social media.
I have a question for you from a journalism angle. When you were first talking to us about who you are, one of the first words you used to describe yourself was as an entertainer. And I want to understand, okay, Rubes, I want to understand how the entertainment factor plays into your journalism, and if there's ever, do you think you've ever crossed a line, or do you feel like you've crossed the line anywhere between entertainment and journalism?
Well, that's the thing. It's like there's this thing that you have to pick one hat to wear. I like different hats. So I tell people I do three things. I do entertainment and satire, journalism and activism. So like my journalist hat is when I'm finding stuff out about Jennifer McCabe being parked outside the house and looking up court documents, doing public records requests, interviewing people, whatever. My activism is when I'm outside leading protests, demanding justice, organizing email campaigns to elected officials to do something about this, etc. And then there's the satirist hat, and that's my live show. That's when I'm on there cracking jokes, using offensive language, blah, 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 blah. So, like, I take on different personas because that's what human beings do. They're not monoliths, right? Like, so, I guess that's the difference between me and other reporters is Sue O'Connell wouldn't do that, right? She might do it in a private life, but she's not going to do it in a professional life. Whereas, like, my professional life, I do both. So I would argue that, you can be both things. Obviously, it's the entertainment aspect of it that gets me in the most trouble because I have a big mouth, and when you do a live show every day constantly, like, you might say something that, like, oops, shouldn't have said that, or I could have said this better. But I always try to correct myself when I do, and I think people understand that, I'm imperfect, and when I make mistakes, I like to admit it. And what am I going to do? It's like I have to talk. It's kind of scary. Like, I get a little carried away sometimes when I get fired up. I almost went back to jail over it. Like, I did this rant in April that almost got my bail revoked for the whole trial. I saw about Brian. I got a little carried away, and I didn't say you guys should kill him or anything like that, but I'm like, oh, that would be awesome. Like, I would take joy in that. I said, you're allowed to be happy about hypotheticals, by the way. That's not illegal. That's not like inciting a mob to do something, right? It's not my proudest moment saying something like that for sure, but it's not illegal. But in hindsight, yeah, I wish I could have phrased that a little bit differently because obviously that got me in trouble.
I think that actually journalism, especially in Boston, has a lot to learn from you. There's nothing wrong, by the way, with journalism being entertaining. Otherwise, people will not read it. They will not watch it. They will not listen to it. When we do criticism of true crime podcasts on my show, it's like you can do the world's most serious story, but if it's boring, nobody's going to fucking want to hear it. And I think that you do audience building in such a smart way. Like, you understand the various constituencies and you make stuff for each person. And by the way, I love your headline writing, like, more than anything. But do you think that part of your criminal cases is their desire to get your devices so they could learn shit about other cases and about themselves?
100%. I think that when they got my devices, they were expecting to find, like, a cornucopia of information in there. I think what they really wanted was Karen Reed and her attorneys. That they were hoping that there was some sort of communications in there between her and I that they could use to revoke her bail, like get her on new. They convened a grand jury for conspiracy to commit witness intimidation, and they returned no true bill on that, which is very rare because you can indict a ham sandwich, as they say. So I think
you can also eat one when you're listening to defense attorneys.
Yes, you can.
Chat after you testified, and you have no fucking idea you're ever going to testify again. So why would you think you couldn't eat a sandwich?
Yeah, I mean, it's was there mustard on it? Was there cheese?
Such a big deal.
Imagine the ego. Imagine the ego involved in. This is all I see right now is all of these guys and women and their ego. They're willing to trip over themselves to do the extra work to bring charges against you, to bring charges against Karen. You know, Rebecca and I have talked about this a lot, and because I don't understand the ego involved in, you know, I'll bring up Pam again. 35 years ago, that prosecutor, I interviewed him just last year, and he said he did nothing wrong in that case. There's nothing he would have changed. The same way that Proctor was asked in the 2020 interview, would you do anything differently? And it's like, well, they've made such a big deal about it. I guess I would have looked into a couple other cars and talked to a couple of other people.
So I could say I did.
So I could say I did.
Yeah.
The idea that their ego is so huge that they can't admit when they make a mistake.
Yeah.
And so then people go to jail because of it, or they stay in jail because of it. That's the part that I really can't get past. And to me, this whole thing feels like ego. Do you have any ideas about it?
Yeah, I mean, ego and self-preservation, you know, like, I guess I can admit when I'm wrong sometimes because I'm just like, whatever, like it's my show and I'm human, I can admit it. Whereas, like, if they admit a mistake, then they jeopardize the whole case. Like, they have to say that it was perfect, right? I assume that's why they do that, is like they don't want to. I would assume like that could get them in trouble with a lawsuit, couldn't it? If they
but
said
a person's
something.
life is on the line.
Of course,
like
right,
I don't
right.
fucking understand.
Because they have no
This-
morals. They have no morals.
This leads to the Brian Albert thing. So
Yeah.
somebody on my show yesterday, that I aired that episode yesterday, Katie from Date with Dateline, said she thinks that the reason the BPD is interfering with someone like Dever is because they don't want Brian Albert's cases to get re-looked at if he is in the frame for a murder or for an accidental death that he covered up or whatever the fuck it is.
Or Proctor's,
And I had
guess.
never thought of that before, that the BPD has a lot to lose if Brian Albert is all of a sudden somebody that lawyers can bring up in court in appeals.
But he's not even working, I guess. I mean,
But he worked on a lot of high-profile cases.
you would think that finding the person who killed a bot, because John was also
You would
Boston
think
police.
so. You would think
Yeah.
You
so.
would think so.
You would think that finding the killer of a cop,
But in
one
the
you
Sean
own, would
Ellis
take
case,
precedent.
they did the same thing in the Sean Ellis case. They were willingly prosecuted, the wrong guy, trial after trial after trial after trial. That was a dead cop. He was working with corrupt cops. They covered for those guys. Like, this is a long-term pattern in this entire region. I mean, you live in Western Mass. Is it different there?
I live in Central Mass.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Everybody,
My husband's
everybody
from
east
Holyoke.
of 495. It's like all the same. Everything past like Freeman is like the same. The boonies to you people, but no.
Somerville.
Yes, I'm in the Worcester area. I mean, the case is popular everywhere. You know, and this is my home base. It's fair, but I definitely, when I go out in Norfolk County or in Boston, I get recognized a lot more than I do in, you know, my hometown. I get, every time we go out to dinner now, it's like everybody asks for pictures. Like, it's just fucking, it's wild when it happens, but it's flattering and my kids think it's funny and all that stuff. But I would say it's a little more popular in the eastern part of the state, but it's still pretty well known out here. The difference out here is the cops.
That's what I was asking. Yeah, what are
Whereas,
the cops like?
The cops are very pro-Karen out here, like more pro-Karen than they are in Norfolk County, because they don't know any of these guys. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like they're just like, every Worcester cop I've talked to thinks Brian Albert did it. Like the most suspicious thing they think is that he didn't come out of the house and he didn't offer up his home to be like a command center. Like, Nicole, get on, like, cleaning lady Nicole, how about you make a little coffee? And we get, like, cops come in here, like, so they
Hey,
can
we
watch
got
the scene
donuts.
all day.
Julie brought donuts.
Yeah, Julie brought donuts. Like,
That's what I said. That's what I said, Rebecca. Like, a few weeks ago, I said, I think that this happened. The women weren't involved. And the only way that they got involved was because they needed to start doing the cleanup. And then they needed to send Jen out there to start corralling everybody and getting all the information and making all the calls and doing everything that she did.
Yeah.
I think the women were an afterthought and they didn't want to be involved in it, but it was their
I think
duty.
they wanted to be involved in it.
inside that house, if you were going to murder someone and get away with it, you had the AllStar Crew in there, the most ideal lineup. You have murder police in Brian Albert, who knows exactly what the cops are going to look for, everything that they're going to do, so he's got that instinct. You have the ATF guy, right, who has an office at the Canton Police Department.
Knows how to seize a phone and have it not record shit.
Knows where the Faraday bags are.
Yeah, he knows you have Jennifer McCabe, who has the most amazing talent to manipulate. The most amazing. And like,
And
she's
a
on your side.
Rolodex, like, of the whole town.
Yeah, like everything. Like she knows exactly what to do in the situation. And then you even have people like Julie Nagel who are so morally compromised that they're willing to say 8 months later that they saw a black blob on the front lawn. It's like to strengthen this. It's just like the crew that they had together in that house was a very unique crew that is like just the perfect crew of people to cover up a murder if you're ever in that situation. Like it was amazing.
I just want to say several months ago, I posited the garage theory on this show. I think
did.
that the garage has always been in the frame for me. I think it makes sense of all of the guy telling the guy never went in the house shit. And I think that there's a world in which there are some people who were at the house that night that didn't know what happened. If something happened in the garage and then people left, and then the whole backward story about I went upstairs to look at photos, I mean, that was retroactively told to explain something that they knew that they had. And, you know, and that the fact that there's this core group of like 6 people, it doesn't have to be 50 fucking people. It has to be 6 people who know what the hell they're doing.
Right.
And you tweeted something during the trial that I've long thought, but I don't know if you still think this. I think something happened to John like a lot earlier than 1232. I really do. And I think that they used his face to do something with his phone.
Sounds like it. It sounds like that's what they used to open it, was the face thing. Because I think he got, you know, hit of course
right away, 1225 or whatever.
He walks in there, words are exchanged almost immediately, and it probably happened real fast. You know,
and they thought, I think that they took his phone because they were planning on texting Karen. This is a possibility to be like, hey, I'm staying here, go home. And then they realized she was gone. And so then it was like, then they had time to think of something else. But I think that like it was probably stupid, and the cover up is what makes it real bad. And I don't think it happened at 1232 or anywhere close to there.
There's the phone call from, I mean, Karen left at 12:30, whatever, you know, right around then. A lot of thing that's not brought up is the Colin Albert phone call to Erin Beatty at 12:33. Like I have proof of that happened. He called her at 12:33. She didn't answer, but it was her. I talked to her father, Tom, and he said how strange she thought it was so strange because kids that age never call each other.
No,
they don't even know phones can do that. And it's just you know, it's like digital communication.
Or it's a FaceTime. It's usually like it's not a regular straight call.
It's never a phone call. So that was very out of character. And the fact that it happened at 12:33, just a minute or two after Karen left, tells you that like they went into self-preservation mode almost immediately. And that like it was operation, for whatever reason, get Colin the hell out of here. Like it was just weird how they wanted to get him.
He wasn't in the police reports, right? He wasn't in. He wasn't even listed as being there. It was. There's so much backbending going on over Colin Albert. It's always been fascinating.
Like Julie Nagel can stay there, Sarah Levinson can stay there, but Colin's got to get the hell out of here. Why? Why did they want him out of there so badly? We'll never know, but that's why people are suspicious of it. Then you see the Bang Bang videos and his history of violence, and he's a punk and all this stuff. It's like this is the profile of something. Like you couldn't put more him. That's why everybody is. I think it was Colin, Brian, and Brian. I mean, Brian
That's
Higgins
exactly
had the motive, right? Brian Albert's going to defend his boy instinctively. Okay, the fact that the dog jumped in indicates Brian Albert was involved, and the fact Colin Albert is the lengths that they've gone to say no, he wasn't there, even though nothing bad happened inside the house. There was no murder inside the house, right? So why are you trying to make us think he wasn't there so badly? Why is that so important to you? It's just
maybe because he popped him in the eye. Maybe. You
know, like I think something happened there, and you know, a horrible accident happened, and they were like, "This is Colin shouldn't lose his life. He's 17 over an accident." You know, an accident, which I think it was. So it's, you know, he doesn't deserve to lose his life over this. It was an accident. And I think that they put him on the lawn and they thought like maybe that he didn't, I don't know what happened to him. Maybe a plow hit him. I don't know. They thought that no one was going to get in trouble for this. Yeah. And then Karen fucked around and cracked her taillight, and they were like, oh. Okay,
between 6 and 9, they came up with a plan.
Right.
And I think absolutely. And I think that, I don't necessarily even think that they thought he was going to die. Like if he was in the garage and he was out, like maybe they didn't. He was going to
die. They knew.
Well, okay. I'm trying to be charitable. I have a question for you. Yeah. My favorite moment from this entire story, hands down, is the Kevin from South Boston moment.
I still can't believe that happened.
I cannot believe it happened. The only reason I wanted him to testify was because I wanted someone to ask him about it on the stand, which they probably wouldn't have. what the fuck was that, and where is Higgins?
I can't
Where's
believe that
Higgins?
was real, because Higgins is the one that disappeared the most of all of them. Like, he ghosted them. He cut ties with them. There's a text
Where is
from
he?
Kevin Albert asking, like, where are you, pal? Like, what's going on? Everyone's worried about you, blah, blah, blah. He moved to the Cape, started a new life. He's out of there. And then...
Well, they have the liquor stores there at the base. So.
But as it turns out, he watches everything intently, including, like, kind of, no offense to JFK or James Jackson, but a somewhat obscure show that
broadcast from their car.
Yeah, like not in the top 5 of like most viewed. So he's like, the fact that he's watching that show, like live listening, and then he's like, you know what I'm going to do right now? I'm going to call in, pretending to be someone else, and defend myself, and then refer to myself as a decorated dude.
Dude.
And then just pretend to kind of be this like hardo, like, yo, what's up, boys? Like, yo, you did a little inflection there.
African American vernacular. Yeah.
Like, JFK sniffed him out in 2 seconds. He's like, yo, you sound like Higgins.
Is this Higgins?
You wrong.
Oh, and then in his text to Karen, he does say the you. He says you blank, and he doesnn't have the your. He doesn't have the y or you are. And
okay.
I'm like, 100%. The text that Buchanan delightfully read in court, which I only liked Buchanan for that 5 minutes when he was pretending to be Brian Higgins, talking about banging. But he said you a couple of times in those texts, and I was like, he's fucking Kevin from South Boston.
But I woke up the next morning
mark.
to a bunch of messages saying that like, Higgins called on the JFK show, and I'm like, no, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
And then I listened to it, and I'm like, no. I mean, it sounds like him, but like, no, that can't be it. So I sent it to Karen Reed, and she played it, and she's like, that's 100% him. 100% him. Like, and I'm like, oh, well, I guess it is. And I'm like, there's kind of no deny it now. You're like, listen to this, like, that's him. Clearly, that's him. Who else would do that? Like, call up and defend the honor of Brian Higgins.
And then Microdots made that voice comparison video. Who is Microdots? Who the fuck are those people?
Like the best. It's one guy. His name is Richie Keough.
Really? He does all that work by himself?
He's the most talented person I've ever met. And
his graphics and his editing are...
The voiceovers are pretty corny, but everything else is great.
One of the most loyal and like cool friends that you could possibly have that I've got to meet through this whole. Richie messaged me in like May of 2023 and said, I really like what you're doing. I want to be part of it. I want to help in any way that I can. I have a background in video production and this and that. And, I think that you should go and start going to the town of Canton and investigating it in person, and I want to film everything. I want to be there to document everything. I want to document it. So we started we did a drive-through of Karen Reed's midnight ride. We timed how long it would take to get from the waterfall to there, and vice versa. And we were doing some research and stuff at first. And then, he was with me for the Jennifer McCabe Billerica lacrosse incident. He wanted to document.
That was him.
Yeah,
That was him recording it?
It was actually me holding the camera.
But he was there.
He was with me that day. Yeah,
yeah.
He was kind of my spotter. Like, he went in there first, and Matt McCabe was so on edge. He sent me a FaceTime picture, a little video of where he was in the stands, so I knew where to go. And you see in the background, Matt McCabe waves. They're so conscious that they were being recorded that I'm like, you've been spotted, dude. Look at Chubbs McCabe saw you there. So then,
he called you a pedophile. I saw it.
He did call me. Like, it was just like the idea that they're victims in that video is wild.
Immediate bullies. Immediate.
Yeah, like pushing. Hey, tough guy. Hey,
the whole lot. They're all Karens.
I didn't realize you were so small.
Didn't know you were so small. Hey, tough guy. Get up in my face. Oh,
they're
really?
the people that shove you and then start crying and be like, he hit me.
Yeah,
that's every single one of them.
He wasn't nearly so tough when he went in front of the grand jury and told them that, he's victimizing us and we're so scared. It's just such an act. It's so ridiculous. These guys are the bullies from high school.
100%.
They're mean people,
100%.
and then they just pretend to be the victim. And it's the police go for it, and judges go for it. It's like every time I'm in court and I'm treated like I'm the aggressor and these people are innocent victims, I just want to, my head wants to, I want to scream. I'm like, what? No, that's not how this is, at all. And it's scary to think that, they have the ability to convince powerful people of this stuff. And you're like, wow, this could be a problem for me moving forward.